my parents, when my parents married, my father wasn't really deep into the church, but my mother was. My father, Mr. Banks, was a deacon in the Church of Christ, and that's how my mother was raised, very religious. And so when her and my dad decided to get married, she made it quite clear to him that he would have to become a Christian before they married, and he did. And then when the mosque was attacked and Malcolm came and did the interview with my parents about the incident, mom being the nurse who was taking care of the brothers who had been shot and murdered. After he came in and did the interview, my mother was a little bit more interested in the religion then. Before her and my dad would have some interesting conversations, I should say. She wasn't feeling Nation of Islam. Dad was one who wanted to investigate it. Then when the incident happened in '61 and the Mosque 27 was attacked, my mother became very interested because she was the nurse who took care of the brothers. And the disrespect that was shown to the injured and the dead by the hospital team, the police, and employees of the hospital was horrible. And my mother wouldn't have it. So she made sure that the brothers had their privacy. She made sure that they were not attacked or disrespected under her watch. And pretty much that's when my mother became a Muslim. She had not taken the Shahada, but pretty much that's when she became a Muslim. That was '61, and they became Muslims in '61. I was born in '58, so I was 2 years old. And my brother was 6 months old. So I always tell people that I was born in the nation because I don't know, I'm born Muslim, I don't know anything else. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but that might be the tradition. It's not necessarily the religion, but it might be the traditions of the East. And then one wants to come to the West, live in the West, and live your life as if you're in the East. That's just not correct. And so you have now Americans who have educated themselves in Islam, and they understand the right and the good and what Islam is all about compared to the traditions and the cultural items, okay? And if we could just stay with the religion and not get into the politics, you can't come and murder children and then say you're a religious person. You can't do those things, Civilization, my brother has a statement he says, only the savage eat their young, okay? So when we're harming our own in the premise that we're doing right for the religion, it doesn't look good for the religion, period. Doesn't look good for the religion, period. And Americans have educated themselves, and they know what's right and what doesn't look right, okay? So all of the things that we do or Muslims do from the East that they do in the West that may be acceptable in the East, they can't come here and do it in the West. And if they want to really promote Islam, don't do it in the East either, okay? Educating of your young girls, okay? Educating of the orphans, okay? When people go to a country that it's supposed to be rich in natural resources and they see homelessness, just when they see things that they would expect not to see, then it's not good. So I can say the same thing for the West. You know, if you come here and they say, you know, the West is wonderful, you can make your money here, life is beautiful, you can get a home, but they come and they see people are homeless. Okay, you know, now I'm not talking about the individual who wants to be homeless, because you have individuals who want to be homeless, okay? But I'm talking about the one person who is trying very hard and not being successful. And many of those people are African Americans. And people wonder, well, you're saying this, but you have that. I would beg them to understand that our circumstances are a little bit different. Okay, America is our country because we were brought to this country. We didn't ask to be brought here, but we were brought to this country. Now we're happy we're here. Don't get it twisted. We're very happy that we're here. And like I say, I'm so glad that the slave ship continued to the Americas, because I've been to other countries where it stopped, and life is not really good for those those of African descent. So what can we do? We can do to make humanity better. We can stop harming each other, and we can stop going on jihads that make no sense. Okay, we can talk and better our world. That's what I think we can do from the West and the East. First, you have to look at the history, America history. And America history is that the African American was first brought over here as slaves. We had no control of ourselves. And any of the old religion of Islam that we tried to keep, it was actually literally beaten out of us, okay? And Christianity was replaced, okay? So we can go from a situation where you're brought here against your will, and then you know you're in captivity, okay? You don't have any freedom. You're in captivity, so you have no financial backings. You have no work. You have nothing, okay? So now we have the civil rights movement, okay, where it's saying that a black person is not a piece of dung to be treated any kind of way, because that's what slavery was. Slavery said, this man owns you and this man can do whatever he wants to you. So women were raped, men were castrated, children were taken from their families, never to find one another again, okay? And we're talking not just, oh, just to happen for 20 years, this happened for generations and generations and generations. My father's grandmother could tell you about coming over from on the slave ship. She literally had to teach my mother and her sisters on how to act around white folks, because they were raised in Kansas, and they didn't know anything about how black folks were supposed to act around white folks. So my mother didn't know that she had to go through the back door, okay? My mother didn't know that she couldn't speak. My mother didn't know she just couldn't sit on the bus, okay? My grandmother was attacked, and my mother was watching, but she didn't know. The little white boy was just kicking or scratching my grandmother and calling her out her name, and she never changed her facial. She never let her children know, because one, they didn't know anything about that life, okay? So when you have a group of people raised in captivity, now we have to fight, okay? Civil rights came. Civil rights said we can vote. Civil rights say we have a job. Civil rights says that the white man can't treat us any kind of way, okay? Well, that's what the law says, but that doesn't mean the sentiment has changed. Okay, so to get an education, I was just in Carolina, and I was speaking to a lady, and she was telling me that she was the last high school graduating class of Jordan High School in Carolinas. I don't know if it's South Carolina, North Carolina. And I asked, I said, why were you the last class? She said, because on graduation day, the KKK blew up the high school. The high school was supposed to blow at 3 o'clock during the graduation, but it blew up at 3 a.m.